What if I told you, there are rituals so ancient, so dark, they were never meant to be remembered, let alone performed? Welcome to the Giving Guru, and tonight, we go where few dare to look. These are not ceremonies of light, not prayers for healing. These are precise, brutal operations, designed to fracture reality, bend the soul, and summon that which should remain nameless. In tunnels sealed beneath forgotten temples, in symbols carved before history had a name, these rituals echo still, and every time they're performed, something answers. Let's begin where the veil first tears, with a rite so feared, it was hidden in the Greek magical papyri, then resurrected by Western ceremonial magicians who saw in it not illumination, but dominion. It's called the Headless Rite. You don't pray in this ritual, you declare. You don't summon the entity, you become it. The magician begins not by inviting a spirit, but by saying, I am that force. No angel, no demon, not even a god. Just will, pure, formless, terrifying will. Headless, nameless, bound to no hierarchy, no morality, no identity. Some say it's linked to Set, the Egyptian god of chaos. Others, to Ayahuasca, the voice that whispered Crowley's law. But those are only shadows. The true nature of this force? It is you, without illusion. The rite is written in a confrontational tone. Each line is a blow, each word a blade. You speak divine names from Hebrew, Coptic, Egyptian origins. Not as metaphors, but as vibrational weapons. You don't whisper them, you unleash them. When spoken correctly, these names rupture the veil of the ordinary. They warp the energetic field around you. They draw in spirits, and they demand obedience. Most perform it alone. Some stand in front of mirrors. Others do it in complete darkness. No candles, no symbols, just voice and will. Those who have done it, who've dared, report strange effects, time slowing, voices not their own, dreams repeating the same lines for days. Some forget how they got home. Others forget who they were before the ritual began. Crowley incorporated it into Thelema, but not as a prayer. He called it a weapon, a blast through the inner world, a tool to shatter illusion and self. And it does come with risk, disassociation, confusion, nightmares, shadowed mirrors. Some report the presence of something watching long after the ritual ends. Not a hallucination, a presence. It lingers in reflections, in dreams, in the stillness between thoughts. Why? Because when you open yourself completely, when you strip away name, ego, fear, you create space, and something will always step into that space. Those who succeed in the rite describe a permanent shift, not in the world around them, but in their perception of it. They no longer fear the unknown, because they no longer feel separate from it. A cold voice may begin to speak within them, not loud, not angry, but steady, commanding. It repeats the names, the commands, long after the ritual ends. The self fractures, and something older takes its place. But this is only the beginning. The next step? The abyss. Because once you've become the Headless One, there's only one place left to go, into the void itself. Once you've shattered the self, what remains? Not silence, not peace, but a doorway. And on the other side of that door, waits the abyss. This is not poetic metaphor. This is not death. This is Choronzon. A name whispered in madness. A force feared even by those who claim mastery over spirits. Aleister Crowley, high magician, prophet, architect of Thelema, once stood on the edge of this chasm. In 1909, in the Algerian desert, alongside Victor Newberg, he opened the gate. Choronzon is not a demon. Not in any way you understand. It has no shape, no voice of its own. It is the force that unravels, the storm that shreds identity. It is not chaos. It is the collapse of meaning itself. In the Enochian cosmology, the abyss divides the divine from the mortal. Above it, the supernal triad, pure God consciousness. Below it, the fractured self, forever reaching upward. Choronzon is the guardian of that boundary. Not to protect you, but to make you prove you deserve to cross. Crowley's ritual was no invocation. It was an ordeal. A deliberate confrontation. He used the 10th Enochian ether, Zax, to pierce the veil. To bring Choronzon into a triangle drawn in the sand. But triangles don't always hold. Choronzon doesn't enter. It seeps. It reflects. It mimics you. Every doubt. Every lie you ever told yourself. Every fear you've buried, Choronzon speaks it back. And then, it offers relief, not truth. Not healing. But surrender. The reports from that night are disturbing. Crowley screaming into the wind. Newberg physically restraining him from running into the desert, lost. The triangle no longer a prison, but a mirror. And in that mirror, everything broken. Some say Choronzon was never truly bound. That it only pretended to submit, long enough to leave with something. The real danger of the abyss is not death. It's entrapment. When the ritual begins, the thread that holds your mind together begins to stretch. And if it snaps, the body may survive. But you may not return. There are testimonies. Practitioners who performed the crossing alone, and never came back whole. They walk. They speak. But their eyes are hollow. They report no inner voice. No dreams. No personal history. Some speak in Enochian, fluently, without ever having learned. To face Choronzon is to disassemble the ego. To meet the shadow of your identity, and then, be mocked by it. It tells you, you are nothing. You are failure. You are fraud. And just when you break, it smiles. And whispers, give up. There's peace on the other side. Some say success means meeting your holy guardian angel. Union with the divine self. Others say success is silence. You pass through, and what returns no longer needs to speak. But failure? Failure is a loop of broken thoughts. A voice that never stops. A presence that never leaves. From this point, most magicians turn back. But some choose to go deeper. Not up the tree of life. Down. Into the Qliphoth. The shadow tree. Where the shells of God's light still scream in darkness. Where demons don't hide, they wait. There's a point in magic where the light no longer guides you. Where ascent is abandoned, and descent begins. This is the path of the Qliphoth, the inverted tree, the underworld of the soul, where divine attributes rot and fester into corruption. You don't climb this tree. You sink into it. And once it takes hold, it doesn't let go. In classical Kabbalah, the world is shaped by 10 divine emanations, Sephiroth, like wisdom, mercy, and beauty. But what happens when the light collapses? What's left behind are the Qliphoth, the husks, the shells, the residues of failed creation. They are not dead. They are not dormant. They are hungry. Each Qlipha mirrors a Sephira, but twisted. Samael turns severity into destruction. Gamaliel corrupts beauty into obsession. Thamiel, the highest shell, splits divine unity into eternal inner war. And within each one, dwells a force. Not demons from myth, but entities of inversion, of unbeing, of spiritual cannibalism. You won't find these rituals in mainstream grimoires. They are scattered, whispered, hidden in code. Passed hand to hand. Carved in shadows. Some involve reversed prayers. Others use no words at all, only vibrations, visualizations, and long, silent descent. These are not rituals of spectacle. There are no candles. No robes. No dramatic invocations. They begin quietly, with a whisper. A stare. A thought that refuses to leave. The practitioner projects their awareness downward, below Malkuth, the kingdom of the mundane, through ancient tunnels mapped only in obscure Kabbalistic diagrams. Toward the roots. Where the shells crawl. And when they make contact, it doesn't feel like an invasion. It feels familiar. Suddenly, sacred words lose their weight. Symbols of light feel foreign. Old boundaries blur. You no longer summon. You receive. And the thing that unfolds inside you feels like it's always been there. Samael feeds justified rage. Hatred, dressed as truth. Gamaliel twists desire into self-destruction. Thamiel splits your soul in two, each half screaming to dominate. Those who enter this work deeply report strange transformations. Voices change. Handwriting shifts. Animals flee. Dreams become invasive. The air in familiar places turns hostile. Not haunted. Just wrong. There is no dramatic moment. No possession scene. No infernal laughter. Instead, there is hollowing. You still walk. Still speak. Still wear your own skin. But something else is driving now. In some circles, this is called spiritual suicide. Not because it ends the soul, but because it evicts it. And what moves in next does not ask. It integrates. It spreads. It rewrites. Until the thing behind your eyes says, but it isn't you. This is not the path of invocation. This is the path of offering. You give yourself. And what returns may remember your name. It may wear your memories. But it will not be you. Once the Qliphoth enter you, the tree doesn't close. It waits. Because once that gate opens, something always stays. But not all rituals invite corruption. Some demand it up front. With blood, with a signature. With your very soul. Next, we meet Lucifuge Rofocale, the demon who does not deceive. He bargains, like a lawyer. And when the pact is made, you belong to him. Some demons lie. Some tempt. Some whisper promises in the dark, but not Lucifuge Rofocale. He does not seduce. He does not flatter. He offers one thing, and one thing only: power. For a price. There is no trick. No hidden clause. You see the price written in your own blood, and still, some say yes. Lucifuge appears in two of the darkest grimoires in Western demonology. The Grand Grimoire, the infamous Red Dragon. And the Grimoire of Honorius, a book few dare to even touch. In both, he is described not as a monster, but as the Prime Minister of Hell. Not fire. Not fang. But structure. Rules. Contract. To summon him is not to ask. It is to negotiate. The ritual is strict. Every step counts. Performed only during Saturn's hour. Tools. A consecrated dagger, virgin parchment, ink made from blood. No circles of protection. No salt. And no prayers. Not before. Not after. Why? Because prayer breaks the pact. And when it breaks, so do you. You begin by calling him by name. Clearly. Calmly. And then, you state your intent. Wealth. Power. Knowledge. Influence. In return? He demands your soul. Not metaphorically. Not symbolically. Your soul, in writing. A signed declaration on blood-soaked parchment. And one line matters more than any other. I swear, under oath, to never seek divine protection again. There are no warnings in the ritual. No threats. Because Lucifuge doesn't need to threaten. His power is in certainty. If you hesitate, he vanishes. If you pray, he vanishes. If you doubt, the ritual fails. But if you proceed, the pact is sealed. Magicians who've performed it report a cascade of sudden change, unexplained wealth, rapid rise in status, powerful contacts appearing from nowhere, knowledge that should not be known. And then, the second wave begins. Sleep paralysis. Figures watching from the corners. Implanted thoughts. Apathy. Empathy, gone. Because the pact never sleeps. You must never attempt to undo it. Never renounce it. Never call upon God again. Any invocation to a higher power is considered a breach. And when that breach happens, the fallout is brutal. Occult records tell of pact breakers who went mad within weeks. Died by drowning or suicide. lost their memory, language, and identity over 4 days, until only a shell remained. One case from 1893 describes a man who burned his contract, and spent his final hours staring into a mirror, unable to speak, unable to write. Just watching. Some versions of the ritual offer a delayed collection. Lucifuge allows you to live 20, maybe 40 years. But when time is up, he takes everything. Not just your soul, but your family, your fortune, your legacy. It collapses like it was never there. This is the true horror of Lucifuge. He doesn't trick you. He tells you the cost, up front. Riches now, destruction later. And if you accept, he delivers. Some say the pact survives death. That your soul becomes part of his dominion. Not punished, but used. A voice. Reciting contracts. Offering deals to others. There are accounts of symbols appearing overnight. Blood-written notes found on pillows. Languages spoken in dreams. Deals offered, in voices not your own. Because once the pact flows through you, it echoes. But even this isn't the darkest rite. Because some rituals don't begin with blood. They begin with ashes. Next, we enter the Mass of the Phoenix. A ritual of sacrifice. Of flame, of rebirth, at the cost of identity itself. Some rituals are loud. Others are long. But a few are quiet. So quiet, they creep up on you. You perform them alone. You whisper the words. You bleed, just a little. And when it's over, you are no longer who you were. This is the Mass of the Phoenix. Written by Crowley, the Mass looks harmless at first glance. Short, poetic. A solitary rite. You might think it's symbolic, a metaphor for rebirth. But metaphors don't draw blood. Metaphors don't mark your soul. This ritual does. You need very little. A cake of light. A chalice. A sharp blade. And silence. You speak the words. You trace the signs. You recall the myth. The phoenix, sacred bird of the sun, who burns itself to death, only to rise again. But in this rite, you are the phoenix. And the fire is real. Near the climax, the blade is drawn. Not for theater, for blood. You pierce your chest or arm. Let the blood fall onto the cake of light. A host made from honey, oil, flour, and fluids that once lived inside you. You consume it. No sound. No music. Just the taste and the silence. Crowley insisted, the sacrifice must be real. The blood must carry intent. This is not drama. This is offering. And what answers? Not a demon. Not an angel. But something else. Something old. Solar. Commanding. Many practitioners interpret the voice as Ayahuasca, the entity who dictated the book of the law. But it doesn't always speak. Sometimes, it moves. Through you. Inside you. Like fire given thought. The ritual is designed to destroy the nephesh, the animal soul. The emotional layer. The part of you that feels. So that only the ruach remains, the rational spirit. Cold. Clear. Relentless. Some practitioners report weeks of emotional numbness. Others speak of strange dreams, ancient symbols. Solar visions. Time warping. Voices in forgotten languages. One wrote, after the Mass, I could no longer cry. Not because I was strong. Because the part of me that cried was gone. Repeated use of the ritual becomes a kind of spiritual warfare. You don't evolve. You strip away. Layer by layer. Memories. Fears. Attachments. Until only the solar ego remains, and it doesn't rise gently. It devours. What begins as poetry becomes sacrifice. What sounds like metaphor becomes irreversible. And what rises from the ashes is no longer fully human. It speaks. It acts. But it has been marked. Branded by fire. Something ancient remembers your name. And from then on, it watches. But even this controlled self-immolation, is still a preparation. Because one ritual remains. A working so demanding, so devastating, that even seasoned magicians break beneath it. The Abramelin operation. The final war. Not against demons outside, but every demon within. There are rituals that summon. Rituals that command. Rituals that burn. And then, there is one that does all three, over 6 brutal months. A ritual that doesn't ask you to face the dark. It forces you to live in it. Day after day. This is the Abramelin operation. And it is not for the weak. The goal sounds noble. To make contact with your holy guardian angel, your divine double. The perfected version of yourself. But the path to get there? It's a war. Not against demons in the world, but every demon you've ever carried inside. Traditionally, the operation lasts 1 full year. Modern versions attempted in 6 months or 180 days. But no matter the version, the requirements are the same. You must withdraw from the world. No sex. No intoxication. No lies. No emotional indulgence. Every weakness is a crack, and through that crack, something darker will enter. You pray. You fast. You isolate. And as your external world shrinks, your internal world explodes. Practitioners report hallucinations, insomnia, internal voices, sudden surges of rage or despair, obsessive memories, forgotten traumas rising like smoke. It's not symbolic. It's purification by fire. Most people never reach the midpoint. They break. They abandon it. Or worse, they pretend they're fine. They lie to themselves. And the ritual knows. But those who endure, those who face the dark without turning away, they reach the moment of contact. Not with an angel of wings and halos, but with a presence. Cold. Vast. Unyielding. It is you. But more. Stripped of all illusion. Radiant with terrible clarity. And it does not comfort you. It gives orders. The first command? Summon the 4 kings. Bind the 12 dukes of hell. Because now, you must confront everything that opposes your divine self, inside and out. You call the demons by name. You force them to appear. And you make them submit. Failure to do this step doesn't just ruin the ritual, it invites the full wrath of what you attempted to control. And they do not forget. Modern accounts exist. Most are buried in forums, private letters, or out-of-print journals. Some who attempted the working went mad. Others were institutionalized. A few disappeared completely from the occult world. One wrote, "I completed it, and I left society. I couldn't stand the sound of other people's illusions, because once the veil lifts, you can't unsee what's behind it." The Abramelin operation is not about becoming powerful. It's about becoming real. And realness has a cost. You will lose friends. You may lose your mind. You will lose the ability to pretend. Because after this ritual, the masks no longer fit. It is the end of ritual as performance. It is ritual as transmutation. Not of metal, but of soul. And it is a path few survive, intact. So after all these rituals, after the abyss, the pact, the sacrifice, and the silence, you may be wondering, why did? Why walk this path? And the answer is different for everyone. But know this, the universe does not give divine secrets freely. It takes payment. And sometimes, that payment is you. So be careful what you seek. Because once you speak the words, once you cross the circle, once you call, something listens.